Hey everybody, how you doing? This is about to be a really fun video. We are going to run over a ton of data specific to the 7mm PRC. Tons of you guys have been asking for it. So here's a video. I'm going to be specific to the bullet droppages of the 7mm PRC rounds. We're going to compare it to some other rounds that you might be asking about. Going to put tons of data in this video. There's going to be a lot of spots where you might want to freeze the video and screenshot or write down all the data that I'm putting out. But 7mm PRC, what in the devil is it? Well, here's one right here. This is an ELD match round. But you can see it is a long for caliber bullet. Look at how long that bullet is, which means we get really high BCs. Looking at this box right here, this is the 180 grain ELD match. The G1BC on this stuff is out of this world. It's not on the box, but I got it right here. Hold on. The G1 scale BCs on this 7mm PRC is 0.796. 0.796. That's bananas. But purpose of this video is we're going to talk about bullet drop out to different ranges and give you a bunch of data. It'd be a very good starting point if you're getting into 7mm PRC and you're wanting to take it out long range. I'm about to give you a bunch of data for free on the round. Check it out. And we're going to compare it to some other stuff. But currently, 3 main factory loadings. There's the match, there's the Precision Hunter, and there is the outfitter round, which is a non-lead thing. Really, in my opinion, there's no reason to use that stuff unless you live in like California and can't use lead bullets for hunting. But let's dive right into the data here. There's going to be a whole bunch. So I'm going to show you this data, and then we're going to talk about it and compare it to some other rounds. I'm going to try not to ramble and get right to the points, and we're going to run through a whole bunch of data. So 7mm PRC bullet drop. First, let's pop up the match out to a mile here. Let me bring up my chart here. So editor man, which is me, pop up the chart with 100 yard increments. So here we go. 100 yard increments. This is the match with the 180 grain ELD bullets in it. All these charts are going to be sighted in at 100 yards. So if you don't sight in at 100 yards, you're going to have to change your chart, but that's how I do things. So sighted in at 100, you can see there. Out to 500 yards, it's dropping 40 inches, so 3 foot 4.5 inches at 500 yards. That's pretty good, but that's really not that much different than a bunch of other things. But freeze this screen on out to a mile, just past a mile actually. Here's the 100 yard increments for 7mm PRC drop. Really, we'll get into this when we talk about comparing them to some other stuff. Really, from a drop perspective, it doesn't really super outshine a lot of other things until it's out past 1,000 yards. Past 1,000 yards, that baby stays like a laser compared to some other things where other rounds are starting to drop off like a rock. Past 1,000 yards is where these 7mm PRCs really start to shine. But we're fixing to get into that. But here's the chart for the match, which is this stuff. Right here, save this screen. Next, we're going to do the exact same thing with the, what's the name of it? Precision Hunter, which is a 175 grain ELDX. Now, here's the exact same screen, exact same setup. The BC, or ballistic coefficient, on the Precision Hunter is a little bit lower. It's a 0.689 on the G1 scale, using the 175 grain at 3,000 feet per second. Here is the numbers. Out to 1,800 yards. It's got your inches in drop, your MOA and mil elevation dials, depending on what scope you're using. You can see this stuff is pretty cool. 19 mils out to 1,000 yards. We're going to talk about this in a second. With the match, it's only 17 mils out to a mile. I think I might have messed up my words there, but you guys know what I'm saying. So freeze this screen, Precision Hunter, and you'll have a very good baseline for drop out to extended ranges. So a very good place to start with. And then also the third one, which is called the Outfitter, is using the CX projectile, 160 grain CX. Freeze this screen. Interestingly enough, this one goes subsonic before it gets to a mile. But here's the drop chart for that 160 grainer. Freeze this if you need it. So that was a whole lot. Let me take a break, make me a coffee, and I'll be right back. And we're going to compare it to some other stuff. This is really where it gets interesting. All right, guys, talking about 7mm PRC drop rate. Here's where it gets interesting. So the match, I'm comparing it to the 300 PRC, the 300 Win Mag, the 7mm Remington Magnum, and the 6.5 PRC. So there's 3 PRCs, the 6.5, the 7, and the 300. And then we're also comparing them to the, some might say, old school long range bullets of the 300 Win Mag and the 7mm Remington Magnum. Drop data on all of these on the same screen. I'm going to run through all this really fast again. Pause it, screenshot it, where it makes sense for you. So, first, let's talk about the match. That's the white box right here. And, yeah, they load 1 for the 300 PRC, 2 for the 300 Win Mag. They don't load it for the 7mm Rem Mag, and then they do the 7.7 and the 6.5 PRCs. So, again, I'm going to run through this fast. Let's screenshot it or freeze the data. So, there I have the muzzle velocities, the G1 BCs, the bullet weights, and then 100-yard increments all the way out to a mile. So, let's check in at 500 yards. The 300 PRC drops 46 inches. The 300 Win Mag, very close, within an inch, inch and a half, at 45 inch drop. And then the 7mm PRC is only dropping 40 inches, and the 6.5 PRC is dropping 44 inches. So what does that mean? At 500 yards, it really doesn't make a hill of beans what you pick. 300 Win Mag, any of the PRCs, they're very close. All of them are within 2 inches at 500 yards of drop. Okay, so if somebody tells you, "Oh, I got my 7 PRC or my 6.5 PRC because it doesn't drop like the other stuff does," well, guess what? At 500 yards, it's just about all the same, and the 7 PRC is going to help you out about 2 more inches of drop, and that's it. That's why I made the comment earlier. The 7 PRC, which is the focus of this video, really shines out past 1,000. But if someone makes the argument they got a PRC because it drops less and they hunt, you know, at 500 yards and in, the data doesn't support what they're talking about. But let's continue on. Let's check in at 1,000 now. So the 300 PRC is dropping 267 inches. The 300 Win Mag's a little bit more, a foot more or so at 1,000. And then the 7 PRC, which I've highlighted with that blue line to kind of help draw our eyes, is dropping 232 inches. And then the 6.5 is dropping 259. So here, like I said, at 1,000 yards is where the 7mm PRC really starts to shine, where it's only dropping 232 inches, and the 300 Win Mags are dropping like 6 feet faster at 1,000 yards. That is a change, where the 300 Win Mags are around 280 inches of drop, and that's about 50 inches less drop at 1,000 yards when it comes to the 7mm PRC. So here's where the argument comes in. We're flinging them at 1,000 yards, 50 inches less of drop than most of the others. Let's keep on going. That means less clickies on your scope for elevation and or less holdover in your reticle, depending on how you want to do it. So, pretty cool. Pretty flat. Let's go on out to a mile. 1,760 yards. I've got it color-coded. Green means awesome. You can see at a mile there is significant difference when it comes to drop. 7mm PRC is dropping that bright green there. That means ding, 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 winner. Is only dropping 1,042 inches, where the other PRCs are in yellow. They beat out the 300 Win Mag, which is red. Red is bad. You can see the drop there. So significant difference. The mil dial, I've noted here, at 1 mile for all of these different loadings. You can see if you're out there and you're trying to hit a piece of steel at 1 mile, for the 300 PRC loading, you're going to dial 19.2 mils. 300 Win Mag, depending on which one, 22 or 23, 24 mils at 1 mile. The 7 PRC, 16.5 mils at 1 mile, which modern day scopes, many of them have that much elevation, and if not, there's plenty of holdover in the reticle to do that. And then the 6.5 PRC is 19.4 dial. That was a whole lot of data. I'm going to run through the next two a lot quicker. So, Precision Hunter now. Same exact spiel we just went through. Here's all the data. We'll check in at 500. Again, they're all really close. 300 PRC, 46. The 300 Win Mags, 48 and 45. The 7 Mag, which they do load in Precision Hunter, at 500 yards, drops 44 inches. The 7mm PRC drops, my phone's ringing here, 41 inches, and the 6.5, 43. So at 500 yards, again, the biggest gap in that data is 6-7 inches between the 300 Win Mag dropping fast and the 7 PRC. Hold on, my wife's calling. I gotta be right back. All right, I'm back. My wife was at Lowe's and needed some info on some door handles. Anyways, where were we at? We were just talking about drop of the Hornady Precision Hunter at 500 yards. So pretty close. All those 300 Win Mag, the 7 Mag, the PRCs, they're all pretty close at 500 yards. The biggest gap out of all of those, 6 inches or so. Still, the argument still is at 500 yards. Really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. There's a little bit of energy differences just because the bullet weights. But we're talking about drop, doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. If your goal is to smack some steel, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. But continue on for the Precision Hunters. Let's go on to 1,000. The 300 PRC drops 276 inches. The 300 Win Mags, 294 and 282. Then there's the Remington Magnum, which is beating everything, even the 300 PRC at 1,000 yards so far. And then the 7mm PRC, again, at 1,000 yards, it starts to really shine, only dropping 242 inches, where the others are dropping 20 or 30 inches more at 1,000 yards. I will point out, though, look at that 7mm mag. It is on par with the 6.5 PRC at 1,000 yards. 7mm Remington Magnum. It's still got the sauce on it. Now let's run on to 1 mile. You can screenshot everything in between there. 1 mile for the Precision Hunters. You can see the bright green. Again, the 7mm PRC greatly outshines everything else. Second place comes in, again, the 7mm mag stays real tight within 6 or 8 inches of the 6.5 PRC at 1 mile. So if you're looking to do 1 mile, 7 PRC is incredible from a drop perspective. But then 6.5 PRC, 7mm mag, second and third place. Fourth place goes to the 300 PRC, and then the 300 Win Mags are boom, a whole lot more drop at 1 mile than everything else on the chart. Let's go over to the other chart where I show you the mils dial for all of these and the drop in inches. So there is the mil dial at 1 mile for the Precision Hunters. Just interesting information. Pretty cool. Green is good, red is bad. The best is the 7mm PRC. We're going to dial 18.9 mils for 1 mile if we're sighted in at 100, like these charts say. Also, everything on here is subsonic at 1 mile, except that 7mm PRC when we're talking about the Precision Hunter stuff. So, pretty interesting information. Let's go back down to the outfitter, the third factory load we're talking about here today. And then we're going to look at some pretty pictures. Pictures make it easier to understand. So you can see again the outfitter, which is the CM or the CX rounds, 500 yards. Again, they're all real close. 1,000 yards. 7mm PRC is smoking everybody. And again, out to a mile. 7mm PRC wins. There is an exception in here for the 300 PRC. Gets second place in this case. Mainly, in my opinion, because it's got that 190 gram PRC with the long bow light, high BC. In this instance, the 300 PRC beats the 6.5 PRC and the 300 Win Mag and the 7mm mag by far. That's more so because of the bow light construction and the weight and the BC. On the outfitter rounds, I don't think anybody's going to be picking the outfitter rounds to go take it to a mile. But hey, you got the data. If you're slapping steel to 1,000 or whatever, there's some data. Then same thing, the outfitter rounds out to a mile. That same data, green is good, red is bad. The drop in inches. Then the mil dials at a mile. The worst is the 7mm mag with it, and the 300 Win Mag right there at 29 mils for a mile. And they are all subsonic. The best there still being 7mm PRC. Let's look at some pretty pictures here real quick. First, the match. So again, look at the chart. The picture shows us at 500 yards, all 5 of these rounds are stacked in tight. Like I said, the drop is almost the same at 500 yards. 1,000 yards, it starts to get a little bit wider. The bright pink there on the top is a 7mm PRC. It shows you it blows everything out of the water at a mile. The second and third place are real tight there. The blue and the purple, that's the 300 PRC and the 6.5 PRC out to a mile. They're sticking real close to each other. And then the 300 Win Mags dropping a lot faster than everything else that we talked about. Then, secondly, we go into Precision Hunter. Exact same thing. The pink is a 7 PRC. It's a lot flatter out to a mile. But again, at 500, 750 yards, everything's still real tight. But yeah, similar conversation. The 300 Win Mags are way at the bottom, the yellow and the red. The stuff in the middle, that purple and the blue, that's the 300 PRC, the 6.5 PRC. Staying real tight to each other. Then lastly, the outfitters, again, it's a similar conversation. 7mm PRC wins. It's the flattest to a mile. 300 is sticking closer to it. And then at the bottom, the 6.5 PRC and the 300 Win Mag and the 7mm mag are dropping the fastest at a mile. That kind of a flip-flop there in that discussion where the 300 stays up tighter to the 7 mag compared to the others. It's 100% because of the bow lots. In the 6.5 PRC, it's only using 130 grain projectile, where the others are quite a bit heavier. So a light bow lot is not the best selection when we're talking about long range. But hey guys, that was a whole lot of data. If you're interested in the 7 PRC, I hope you learned something. If I know the info, ask away, and I'll get you what I know. Me personally, I have picked up 2 myself. You guys have seen this one at the range. This is a Mossberg Patriot Predator in 7mm PRC. I've got a Zero-Tech Trace Advanced, really nice piece of glass on here. But this bow light slinger right here, I'm getting like 0.4, if I remember, 0.3, 0.4 inch groups at 100 yards or something. So super impressed. If you haven't seen the videos on this, check it out. There's gonna be more. But this thing so far is putting them in about the same hole. Also, I just picked up this Ruger American Go Wild in 7 PRC. I got a black hound on this baby, and it's pretty sweet. Probably gonna get this one to the range this week. Stay tuned. You guys have been blowing my phone up to see me get this thing out to the range. But both of those scopes, Zerotech, Blackhound, they give us secret codes to get you guys big discounts if you're looking for optics. Code WHOTEEWHO on both of those, just like you'd think. WHOTEEWHO. They give us big time discounts. Everybody who watches the show. But 7mm PRC, stay tuned. We're going to have a bunch more videos on it. There are going to be more and more factory loadings for this stuff. I know Remington announced at SHOT Show this year that they plan on loading the PRC stuff. But appreciate y'all watching. Stay tuned. Comment down below what you want to see next time. We can nerd out on all this data together on anything that you want to. But talking about 7mm PRC, in conclusion, it's pretty flat. Past 1,000 yards is where it really shines. You want to go to a mile? That's pretty cool. Appreciate y'all. Comment down below. Make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned. We got videos coming out all the time. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate y'all. Woo-hoo!